every hour, it seems. So, at the current time, for me, when I am recording this, it is Sunday afternoon, December 15th, and you will hopefully be watching this tomorrow evening. So, things might have changed. If anything important changes between now and then, I will post it in a pinned comment. Alright, so let's get started. And I'm going to start with some background information on Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson was born on July 10th of 1974 in Ames, Iowa. He was one of two sons born to his parents, Dennis and Pat Thompson, and his father worked as a grain elevator worker. Brian graduated from South Hamilton High School in 1993, and he was the class Victorian. He was a brilliant student. But not only that, he was very well-rounded. He was also an athlete. He was the homecoming king and the class president. The current principal of that school, the principal today, his name is Todd Coy. Now, I'm not sure if he was working at the school when Brian was a student or if he himself was a student at the time. It's not clear, but he said of Brian, quote, "He was humble, an outstanding student. He was liked by all, which was a testament to why he was probably our class president. The fact that he came from small town Iowa and still was able to achieve what he achieved says a lot about his drive. We've had things that we can hang our hat on, and Brian is definitely one of those," end quote. So he is a self-made man. He came from nothing. Thompson attended the University of Iowa after he graduated from high school. He graduated in 1997 with a Bachelor of Business Administration and Accounting. He was recognized as a collegiate scholar, a Carver Scholar, State of Iowa Scholar, and Faculty Scholar, and he was named Outstanding Accounting Junior and Senior by the university and the Iowa Society of Certified Public Accountants. And while he was attending school, he met his future wife. Her name is Paulette. So she became a physical therapist, and the couple went on to have two sons together. They are currently 16 and 19. By late in 2024, Paulette and Brian were living in separate homes. Both of their homes were in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and the kids were living with Paulette. Paulette would later say of Brian that he, quote, "was an incredibly loving father to our two sons," end quote. Brian was an active supporter of the Special Olympics, and he was honorary co-chair of the upcoming 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. Now, going back in time a little, when Brian first graduated from college, he worked in Minneapolis as an accountant for PricewaterhouseCoopers. healthcare executives, and those were the CEO, Andrew Whitty, so there was more than one CEO, and the executive chairman, Stephen J. Hemsley, and they alleged fraud and insider trading. Now, this case is still pending, okay? On December 4th of 2024, so now we're moving up to the actual crime. So December 4th, Brian Thompson was 50 years old, and he was in New York City for an annual United Healthcare Investors meeting. He was staying overnight at the Marriott Hotel, which was across the street from where the meeting was being held at the New York Hilton, Midtown. So, at around 6:45 a.m., he was walking along West 54th Street towards the Hilton after leaving the hotel that he was sleeping at. And he was shot from behind by a person dressed in a hooded jacket, and that person was wielding a pistol. Thompson was taken to Mount Sinai West Hospital, where at 7:12 a.m. he was pronounced dead. Alright, so let's put that aside for now, and let's talk about the suspected gunman. Luigi Mangione is the suspect, okay? He has not been found guilty. So a lot of what I am telling you is alleged, okay? So, Luigi Mangione was born on May 6th, 1998 in Maryland to his parents, Louis and Kathleen. It was the Baltimore area. Now his father, Louis, is the owner of Lorien Health Services, which is an assisted living facility, which I believe was started by Louis's father. And Luigi's mother, Kathleen, runs a boutique travel company, and she is from a prominent Italian family. And Luigi also has two sisters. So Luigi's paternal grandfather, the father of his father, Louis's father, his name is Nicholas Mangione Sr., and he was a self-made real estate developer. Luigi's grandparents bought the Turf Valley Country Club in Maryland in the 1970s and expanded their business by purchasing the Hayfields Country Club as well, so they owned two country clubs. They also owned the local radio station and an assisted living facility. Now, his grandfather Nicholas died in 2008 from a stroke at age 83, and his grandmother Mary died at 92 from complications from Parkinson's in the year 2023. So Luigi, as you might already know, had an extremely privileged upbringing. His family was extraordinarily wealthy, and he had everything that anyone could ever want, you know. He attended an all-boys private school called the Gilman School. I've heard it was $35,000 a year to go there. And that was in Baltimore. And he was super smart, okay? He graduated as the valedictorian in 2016, so he was off the charts brilliant. He went on to attend the Ivy League school, the University of Pennsylvania, where he got both a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering and a Master of Science in Engineering. But before it ended, he was working for them remotely and he was living in Hawaii. From January till June of 2022, he lived at a place called Surf Break. It was a shared penthouse catering to remote workers in Waikiki. So don't assume it's cheap just because it's a shared penthouse. It was expensive. After his stay at Surf Break, he then moved into a high-rise building, a traditional high-rise building in Honolulu. Now, someone who knew him from Hawaii said of him, quote, he was very professional. He was very conscious of stuff that he needed to get done. He came to work. It was also evident he came from money, that he wasn't a digital nomad. He had a job. Even the fact that he stayed at Sunbreak, that's not a cheap place to stay, end quote. It was said that during his time there in Hawaii, he was a social butterfly. Someone said, quote, he was a handsome, charismatic 24 to 25-year-old. I don't think he dated anyone at the hub, but I know there were lots of crushes, end quote. There are lots of photos that you can find online of him during his time in Hawaii. While he was hanging out with good-looking girls, looks like he's having a great time. It was said that he had met a yoga guru on Tinder, like he had put up a Tinder profile and he met a beautiful yoga guru. So he was living up, what sounds like a fun 20-something-year-old Hawaii beach life, It doesn't look bad from the photos and from what people were saying who knew him. Anyway, a man named R.J. Martin lived with Luigi for 6 months at Surf Break. And he told the New York Times, quote, he knew that dating and being physically intimate with his back condition wasn't possible. I remember him telling me that and my heart just breaks. He explained that Luigi had a back condition called spondylolisthesis, and it was worsened by a surfing accident that he had there in Hawaii. So, Martin said, quote, his spine was kind of misaligned. He said his lower vertebrae were almost like a half-inch off, and I think it pinched a nerve. So here is some information that I found from the Mayo Clinic on spondylolisthesis. Okay, it is, quote, a spinal disorder in which a bone or vertebrae slips forward onto the bone below it. Spondylolisthesis risk factors include sports that put stress on the bones in the lower back, such as gymnastics and football. Genetics may put some people at increased risk. If the vertebra slips too far, it may press on nerves and cause severe back pain or nerve crowding that produces leg pain or numbness. Initial treatment may include rest and medication. Severe spondylolisthesis may require surgery, end quote. So this guy, R.J. Martin, described Luigi as a bright engineer who suffered from debilitating pain throughout his 6-month stay at Surf Break. He said that a single surf lesson left Luigi, quote, in bed for a week afterwards. And he went on to say it was really traumatic and difficult, when you're in your early 20s and you can't, do some basic things, end quote. So now, we don't know how much Luigi was suffering with his back prior to this injury. Before he had this surfing injury. He already had the condition, but was he suffering a lot? We don't know what the deal was prior to this injury, but at the point of the injury, that is when he was in immense pain. slipped because of it. So on Reddit he also said he had a surfing accident, which left him with a locked up back and hips, and that intermittent numbness had become constant, and he said, quote, "I'm terrified of the implications," end quote. And then a few weeks after that post, he came back with another post to say that he had surgery and his symptoms had improved. And he didn't mention anything about United Healthcare. And actually, I'll mention it here, he did not have United Healthcare. He was not a customer of United Healthcare at all. Okay? Now, Luigi also shared a photo of his x-ray on his own account on X or Twitter, and it showed multiple screws inserted into his spine. So it looks kind of scary and ugly, but maybe that's how it's supposed to look, you know? In November of 2024, Luigi was reported missing by his mother, who stated that the family had not heard from him since July of that year, July of 2024. So he had gone off the grid, he was missing. So now let's jump to the timeline of the crime. So we're going to talk about an unknown suspect who we believe to be Luigi Mangione. It is allegedly him. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So, on November 24th at 10:11 p.m., an unknown suspect arrived in New York City on a Greyhound which came from Atlanta, Georgia. The suspect checked into the HI New York City Hostel on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. The suspect then cased the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel. So I guess that means he went and looked at it, and there must be images, I presume. Now, a few days later, on November 29th, he checked out of the hostel, and then the next day he checked back in to the hostel. Okay, jump up to December 4th, 5:30 a.m., the suspect left the hostel, possibly by bike. At 6:15 a.m., he is seen leaving the 57th Street F train subway stop. 2 minutes later, he bought coffee, water, and granola bars at Starbucks, which was 2 blocks away from the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel, and he threw away the coffee cup and water bottle, leaving behind his DNA. At 6:30 a.m., surveillance footage captured him walking while talking on the phone. I wonder who he's talking to. 6:39 a.m., he arrived in front of the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel and waited for several minutes, so lying in wait. At 6:40, that's 1 minute later, Brian Thompson left the Marriott Hotel where he was staying the prior night, and he began heading towards the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel to attend a meeting. 4 minutes later, 6:44 a.m., Thompson walks along the sidewalk toward the Hilton, and the assailant shoots him multiple times, racking his pistol after it appeared to jam. The suspect immediately flees northbound via a pedestrian walkway. At 6:46 a.m., so 2 minutes after the shooting began, police responded to a 911 call reporting At 7:04 a.m., the suspect gets into a northbound taxi on 86th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. 7:12 a.m., Brian Thompson is sadly declared dead at Mount Sinai Hospital. And at 7:30 a.m., the suspect arrives at the George Washington Bridge bus station. Okay, so that's the end of the timeline. Now, 3 fired cartridge cases were found at the scene of the crime alongside 3 unfired cartridges. And the words, quote, delay, deny, and depose were written on the cases. Like each case had one of those words. Now, depose was inscribed on a casing found from a round fired into Thompson, while delay was marked on an unfired cartridge ejected as the shooter racked the pistol, which was maybe to clear a jam, or maybe was done intentionally to discard the live round. And these 3 words are similar to the phrase delay, deny, defend, which is a well-known phrase in the insurance industry, alluding to insurance companies' effort to not pay out claims. So the police are investigating whether these words suggest the motive of the killer. And in fact, there's a book with the title Delay, Deny, Defend. It's a 2010 book written by J.M. Feynman, who is a retired Rutgers Law School professor. And in this book, he criticizes the property and casualty insurance industries. So in addition to the ammunition casings, they also found a water bottle, a candy wrapper, and a phone from the scene that were believed to be connected to the shooter. And on December 6th, so 2 days after the shooting, police found what they believed to be the shooter's backpack in Central Park. And in the backpack, there was a Tommy Hilfiger jacket and Monopoly money. Some kind of statement, perhaps. Now, of course, a manhunt began immediately, and the police department offered a reward for information on the shooter. And then the FBI joined in the investigation, and they offered up to $50,000 for information which would lead to an arrest and conviction. And they released some images to the public. There was one of the suspect taken by a surveillance camera at the hostel, and one at Starbucks. And the images show the suspect's face, including one with him having a big smile. And the reason he had that big smile, supposedly, is because the female desk attendant at the hostel asked to, quote, see his pretty smile, end quote. I bet she's regretting that. On December 9th, so 5 days after the crime, police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, arrested Luigi Mangione. This was at a McDonald's shooter when he checked into the hostel. So they had told him that, giving a fake name to the police is a crime, and supposedly he seemed very nervous at that point, and he told them his real name. So he was arrested, and he had on him a 3-page, 262-word handwritten document, which is being called his manifesto. That's what the police are, that's the word they're using to describe this document. It's a manifesto. And it talks about the American healthcare system. So he was charged right there in Pennsylvania. It was Blair County. He was charged with carrying a gun without a license, forgery, falsely identifying himself to authorities, and possessing instruments of crime. And that was on December 9th, 2024. He was arraigned and denied bail. He was denied bail twice. And on the same day, December 9th, he was charged in Manhattan with second-degree murder, 3 counts of illegal weapons possession, and forgery. So he is still in prison or in jail in Pennsylvania at the time that I am making this video. And he is awaiting an extradition hearing to have him sent to Manhattan to face his crime there. So in Pennsylvania, he is staying in a cell alone with no TV, and he faces the maximum life sentence with the possibility of parole in 20 years if convicted. The defense attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who is the former prosecutor at the Manhattan DA's office and the former legal analyst with CNN, has been hired to represent him. They had a different lawyer at first, but then they quickly switched to this one, who supposedly is well known. So, it is believed that Luigi was inspired by Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. He was inspired by Kaczynski's book, which is called Industrial Society and Its Future, and that book is considered to be Kaczynski's manifesto. But it's a real book, it was published. So in that book, he wrote that the Industrial Revolution began a harmful process of natural destruction brought about by technology, while forcing humans to adapt to machinery, creating a socio-political order that suppresses human freedom and potential. So just to refresh you on who is Kaczynski, he murdered 3 people and injured 23 others between 1978 and 1995 in a nationwide mail bombing campaign against people he believed to be advancing modern technology and the destruction of the natural environment. So he's a bad guy. Now, Mangione had posted a review of this book on Goodreads, where he described Kaczynski as, quote, rightfully imprisoned, end quote, and he was critical of his use of violence against innocent individuals. So the review written by Luigi gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. He wrote that the, quote, violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators, and when all other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. So police believe that a possible motive was related to the back injury that Mangione had suffered that caused him to visit an emergency room in July of 2023, which I guess is right before he had the surgery. It is believed that he Christianity, and he promoted traditionalist ideas. I wonder if the majority of people out there in social media land are aware of these beliefs on his part. I'm thinking they don't know. So following his arrest, his family released a statement through his cousin, whose name is Nino Mangione. He's a Republican Maryland state legislator. So he said, quote, this is on X, I believe, "Unfortunately, we cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi Mangione. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved. We are devastated by this news," end quote. So I'd like to talk about the social media response to this murder. Little empathy has been shown online for Brian Thompson and his family. Remember, he has 2 children, and he has a wife, but they were separated. I'm not sure exactly why. So instead of showing any kind of sympathy or empathy for the victim, many people have hailed Luigi Mangione as a hero. Many people have made posts about how good looking they think he is, so I'd call those thirst posts. Many people have posted fake alibis. I mean, it's a joke, but they're putting up a picture of someone and Luigi and saying this was on December 4th, so it could have been him. Like, lots of those I've seen. Just lots and lots of support for Luigi online. A fundraiser was began on GoFundMe, but it was removed. The site would not allow it. So a new one was put up. It's called Give, Send, Go. That's a different fundraising site, and it's still active. And as of December 13th, it had raised over $75,000 to go towards Luigi's legal costs. But don't forget, his family has a lot of money. I don't know if they need it, but I mean, I'm sure they don't mind. And a lot of social media users have left links to Mangione's jail commissary account, hoping to get donations for him to get snacks, soda, an iPad, etc. while he's there in jail. Some have even suggested that this is the start of a class war, the rich against the poor. But they're saying that Mangione is on the poor side. He's fighting for the poor. Okay. Anyway, let me tell you what it said on Luigi's manifesto. Allegedly, we do not know 100% if this is the real thing, but it's believed that it is. Quote, "To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal, more decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty, end quote. And that is the case. What are your thoughts? I will share some of mine. And I have a lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. I've been thinking about this case too much. So I will start out by saying this. I'm not going to start with my usual rest in peace part. I will get to that, okay? I will. But I'm going to start by saying I do have United Healthcare insurance, okay? And I am not happy with it. It is extremely expensive. We pay for it privately because my husband is self-employed, so we don't get it through a company, through somebody's workplace. We pay the entire price for the health insurance, which is unbelievable. And in addition to that, we have a huge deductible, which just went up. The co-pays for each visit are crazy. They also just went up. I'm paying $80 every time I go to a specialist for a copay. I'm paying $45 to go to like an internist, okay? And then you may know, I had foot surgery recently, and that wasn't like I just paid a copay of like $25 and it was done. No. Since I haven't met the deductible or gotten anywhere close to it, I had to pay quite a bit. Alright? So, why am I saying this? I'm saying I understand the frustration and the anger as much as the next guy. I truly do. Do I sit around burning up about United Healthcare? No, I haven't been. Because I know it's not any better if I went to a different company. They are all like that, okay? Is there a solution? I don't know of one. Okay. Do I try to take the matter into my own hands and go try to hurt somebody? No, I do not. Do I know people in tremendous pain all the time for decades and decades? Yes, I do. Does that give them the right to hurt anyone? No, it doesn't. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to say. So I don't think anger about your health or anger about doctors or the current state of medicine or anger about paying too much for health insurance, none of that is an excuse to kill anybody, not in this country. Okay. And I am extremely disgusted by the fact that somehow things have took a change over the past couple of weeks. Like a few weeks ago, we're all out there saying, don't say this, don't say that, be sensitive to everybody, this is triggering for people, say this. And I'm sitting here like, okay, sure, like if it's that easy to keep everyone happy, I don't mind. I'll say whatever, whatever I'm supposed to say to be polite. It's fine. No problem. And don't blame a victim, ever, they say. Never blame them. Don't say they shouldn't have worn this. I agree. Don't say they should have done this instead. It's never the fault of the victim. Even if they went into a dark alley, it's not their fault, right? Absolutely. Now, all of a sudden, the world's gone mad, and out there, it's okay for everyone to say that this killer, alleged killer, is a hero. What kind of a hero is he? How is he a hero? Why is he your hero? Tell me. Don't make it a joke. Tell me legitimately. jury. So how are we gonna sit here and say he's a villain and make it the biggest joke ever? Think about his children. I hope they are staying out of social media 100%, because I'd hate to think they're seeing this stuff that's being posted. I really can't stand to think of that. And you know what I'm also thinking? I'm thinking, imagine if Luigi were unattractive. Would it be different? Think about that. Because that seems to be a huge piece of this, is that everyone thinks he's so good looking. But what if he weren't good looking? Would he still be a hero? If he were, I'm not even going to say I'm not going to even try to describe him as unattractive, because that would be insensitive for me to use any of those words to describe an unattractive person. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm saying, imagine if he were extremely, extremely unattractive in every way you can think of, and he were grotesque. I don't think he would be seen as a hero so much. Alright, so let me stop that rant, okay? And I am sorry if I offended anyone, because I'm sure I did, but I just had to do it. I had to be honest. So now, how do I think this will play out? Well, it sounds like his lawyer is going to try an insanity defense, because the evidence seems to be plentiful. It's going to be hard to say he didn't do it, okay, with all the evidence there is. So I believe they're going to try to say that he was legally insane when he did it. Now, was he legally insane? I'm gonna say no way. Was he mentally ill? Yes. Okay. Obviously, he took some kind of a turn, because everyone was saying he was so nice, he was so normal, he was a regular guy, he wasn't angry, all that, right? So at some point, his brain took a turn, and he has obviously some mental illness. It could be pretty severe. But he was not psychotic, he was clear-minded, he premeditated this allegedly over a period of days, maybe more. We don't know how long he was planning this. He laid in wait, which is one of those things that shows it was premeditated. He stood somewhere and he waited for the victim to come out, and then he shot him. Allegedly. He wrote this manifesto, which was found on him. He was clear-minded enough to write that whole thing out. So I'm gonna say that he should not be found not guilty by reason of insanity. From everything that I have heard so far, I believe that he is guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and should be sentenced to life in prison. That's just my opinion. And I think that any other verdict gives other people the idea that it is okay to go out and kill people in order to make a statement, and that is not something that we want to have happen. So having said all of that, now I'm going to say rest in peace to Brian Thompson, regardless of whatever went on at United Healthcare. Like I said before, he is not on trial here. He was a self-made man. He came from nothing. And he was extremely intelligent and successful in life. My heart goes out to his 2 children and to his entire family and friends and coworkers. So, I am going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found it to be thought-provoking. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.